the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Tim Albright with AVNation, live from NAB, National Association of Broadcasters 2022 in Las Vegas. Not my first time in Las Vegas this year, not my last, and we'll talk about that as we go around the horn here. With me, first and foremost, is a young man that not only did I get to hang out with in Vegas earlier at CES, but also Enterprise Connect, Mr. David Dento from Poly.
Young man? Where?
Oh, stop it. Young man. How are you?
I'm okay. It's
Stranger?
the trade shows are ramping up, and I'm ramping up. You
Well,
know, the
absolutely.
ability to stand on your feet all day and walk around is not the easiest thing to do.
Well, especially when we're out of practice,
Exactly.
right? Our good friend Chris Netto has started something called Show 50 as we try to get back into show shape. But we're back in shows already, right? It's not our fault that he's not here.
He's doing some very important stuff.
He is indeed. So let's start for a second here. You made the joke about, where's the young man? You have been going to this show, NAB, for a minute, right? Since let's say the late 80s.
The late 1980s, yes.
What is the difference over the last 30, 40 years?
It's interesting. This used to be the most important show for me of the year. It isn't really anymore. It's a good show to be at. It was the place where broadcast engineers and producers of programming would get together. I was at the last one they did in Atlanta, which dates it back into the 80s, and a lot of them, they've been permanently in Vegas now. It was about the camera. It was about the grip equipment. It was about what you needed to do broadcasting. And as you walk around the halls, it was probably like 5 or 6 years ago, it turned that the Central Hall, which at the time held most of these traditional hardware people, started to get a little lighter, and the South Hall, which oddly is not in use this year, had all the software, and you couldn't walk through it. It was too packed. This is now really a very disjointed show about software with a little hardware thrown in, with the idea that production and content creation isn't this thing you need studios and conglomerates for and MSOs. You and I are doing production right now in a little booth, courtesy of these guys, and that's really the idea that this show has really changed from a traditional broadcast to a whatever you want to define broadcast as.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wait a minute, actually, before you go on,
Yes.
I forgot. Here,
What do you?
I bought this. This was almost $4 at the NAB store.
Oh,
And here, you're gonna wear it for the rest of the interview.
I'm a broadcast.
Can you guys see
genius.
it?
I'm a broadcast genius. Broadcast genius. There we go. Oop. Not anymore. I can't spell today, obviously, apparently, and I can't. Can I put this here?
You can put it there.
All
I was
right.
gonna put it on your jacket,
Yeah.
whatever you like.
I might wear a different jacket this week.
That's true.
So talk for a second about the difference. I somewhat made the joke that you and I have been to one or two shows together. We started the year at CES in January. You and I were together at Enterprise Connect. I have personally gone to a couple of other shows as well, as you have.
Yes.
What is the difference between all of these shows as we're getting back? Because from my perception, right, I am going to more shows than I ever have in my life, in my career. CES, to me, was lighter than this show. Now, it was spread out more, but it felt lighter. It was January as opposed to April. This feels a bit more populated today. But that just might be my perception, and then you and I are going into ISE in 2 weeks. So what is the expectation as we kind of get back into...
Well,
into
it's almost not related, and we were joking about this before, that you picked a hell of a year to start going to all the trade shows, because we've been going up in flows and peaks and valleys with the variants of the pandemic. Just before CES is when Omicron was exploding, and a lot of people who were going to go to CES bagged out and didn't go. We're now at what's considered a low point. I'm still masking up most of the time, obviously not for interviews, but there are more people here because there are more people that feel safe to go. We're on this ramp where I think to CES 2023 is going to be back to where trade shows used to be, should be. And to answer your question sideways, CES for me is the most important show of the year because it's the one that gives you an 18-month look ahead as to what's going on in all technology. Here you deal with broadcasting and broadcast technology. Enterprise Connect, you deal with collaboration and collaboration strategy and solution. And for all of these conferences, I'm not there so much to see exhibitors, but I'm there to see people that I knew I was going to see. Colleagues, appointments, friends. It's for the networking. It's to really get a sense of what's going on in the industry, which you can't always do from your desk.
That's accurate. And one of the things is CES had an area called Eureka Park, right? Here at NAB, they have a futuristic pavilion over in the new West Hall, right? So at least you've got a sense of, I don't know if it's 18 months, but at least the next 12 months of innovation, what some folks think is going to come down the pipeline. How important is that kind of future casting, as dangerous as it is, in my opinion, given the COVID era that we're in? How important is that future casting?
Well, it's more important at a show like CES because CES encompasses all technology, broadcasting, personal, everything else. Here, we saw HD here for the first time. Before it was, generally accepted. We saw 4K. We've seen 8K TV here. So we understand the direction that we're going in, and seeing people experiment with these. Whether it was NHK in the Orient or Sarnoff Labs here in the U.S. or wherever. You see a lot of the future, and it's important to understand. You also saw the death of 3D TV here. Nobody was going to wear glasses. That was the bottom line. If you and I are watching TV, we're not going to put on other glasses. We want to be able to multitask and, eat popcorn and talk to each other. So you understood that was dying here. You put all of it together, it's worthwhile going to 2 or 3 or 4 trips a year, more to see the people than the exhibitors, but definitely worthwhile to get a sense of what's going on in your industry.
All right, you've made a transition to Poly over the last couple of years. Is Poly showing at NAB? Is this a show that they do?
No, Poly is not an exhibitor at NAB. I'm here. A couple of my colleagues are here. We're definitely going to be an exhibitor at ISE in a couple of weeks, and we're looking forward to people joining us there. Please, and joining us for the tweet up like we posted earlier today, or one of us posted successfully anyway.
It was early. I hadn't had any coffee yet. That's my excuse.
The Poly Weekly News show that I'm doing tomorrow as we do this, although it'll be available, anybody who wants to see it, is specifically about the idea that all the things that I learned in broadcasting when I took, I have a broadcasting degree. I learned from the Zettel book, and I taught from that book. And everything that I learned about shots and when to cut and when to dissolve, and the difference between a pan and a dolly, it's all now built into our cameras. Yeah. We call it Director AI. The production rules are built in. It's a solid state camera, so no distracting motors in the room. You put it in, and it's got your little NAB built into the box. So that's one of the reasons we're here, is to do that show and to talk about how Director AI and production rules are really changing the way we do broadcasting.
All right, sir. Dave Jancha, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or Poly?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm NJ David on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn. Always, it's poly.com, or if you need more information about me, it's danto.info.
We'll be right back with our next guest. All right, next guest up is a young lady that I actually got to hang out with a couple of weeks ago, Nancy Blanchard from Williams AV. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good, thank you.
All right,
good to see you.
Good to see you again. Good to see you again. I mentioned the fact that you and I were together at the PSNI Super Summit.
Yes.
Because Williams AV is a part of that group. Talk for a second about PSNI, which is traditionally an AV-centric organization. We have ISD coming up, Integrated Systems Europe, in a couple of weeks. You guys will be there.
Yeah.
And you're at NAB, right? So explain to me for a second, a company that we have known as a traditional AV company, why you're at NAB.
Well, what we did is we have products that are on the video side now, and then also are AI-based. So we've never exhibited here.
Okay. So this is your first time?
This is our first time. So it was one of those where we thought, okay, the NFL's using our video annotation product. There's court systems are using our video annotation. And then also, you got an HDMI audio feed in for convey video, so now you have that real-time captioning and translation. So we just felt that these products tailored to the type of people that would be attending this show.
I know this is we're recording this at 3 o'clock Pacific on the first day, so this might be a little unfair question, but I'm still going to ask it. What has been the reception specifically to the real-time translation so far?
There's the interest,
Okay.
especially because of having 109 languages. We had somebody that came up. He works for, now all of a sudden I'm going to forget, from LA, but Warner.
Okay.
And they have Slovenia. And so when he walked by and he looked at it, he said, and so do you have Slovenia that maybe we can be able to communicate with? And so we brought up the menu, showed them all the different languages. He took a card and he said, okay, I'm going to present this. So it's that need of being able to globally communicate effectively.
Yeah.
So you don't have any language barrier.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the intersection, I've said this before, and my day job is marketing at CTI, integrator out of St. Louis. We are also here in force. We have a large broadcast presence, but the one thing that we're seeing is this overlap between broadcast and traditional AV, right? Where you have a corporate Fortune 500, Fortune 100 company who, oh yeah, we want to do our own content, which I'm all about. Go ahead, let's do it, right?
Yeah.
Love content, but also we need translation. We need conference rooms. We need meeting rooms. We still need some version of the huddle space, and we'll talk about what that means later after InfoComm. But are you seeing a lot of your customers coming to you saying, you know what, we can now leverage some of these broadcast-centric things with some of our clients because that's what they're pulling. They're pulling us into broadcast. Are you seeing that, or is it still kind of siloed? I do broadcast, I do AV.
I think it's siloed, like you said. We do have the rental companies that do live events. There's an aquatic area in Australia, and so they're using Caption Assist during the races to have it displayed up on screen. People have talked about, with athletics, with baseball games. So now all of a sudden you've got that inclusion because you're sitting there in the stands, but you're able to follow along with what's being said.
Yeah.
So I still think it's separate. There's different applications, from teaching from higher ed to court systems to, like I said, live events to meetings. So,
all right. Let me ask you one thing as we all kind of get back together. You can reference the PSNI event this week or whatever. What's one thing that you have missed that we're getting back as we get back together?
I think it's just been that communication, in real time, the hugging, being able to, just catch up on things. Whereas, a year and a half, we've just been DMing one another or posting and that's how it's been. But now you're able to actually talk, and I think it also has to do with the body language. Being able to read people in my meetings. I'm showing them product and stuff, but I'm able to read, are they interested, or is it something, that maybe I should, that's not really their focus. So it's just that human element.
All right, I like that. Nancy Blanchard from Williams AV. How do people connect with you or Williams?
You can contact me on Twitter at Nancy Blanchard. LinkedIn is at Nancy Blanchard. Williams AV would be Nancy, B as in boy, at williamsav.com.
All right, very good. That's Nancy from Williams AV.
Yep.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good
Appreciate
seeing
it. We'll be right back with our next guest. All right, our next guest has a brand spanking new job at UNLV, but that is not why he's at NAB this week. Mr. James King from UNLV. How are you?
I'm good. Just a little clarification. I'm with the School of Medicine of UNL.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
School of Medicine with UNL,
But-
not UNLV.
Yes.
All right. Recently moved out here from Jersey.
Yes,
Jersey.
about 5 days ago.
So how's the heat?
Perfect.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Talk for a second about you. I mentioned the fact that you came from New Jersey. Again, higher education there. Mm-hmm. Now you're out here. Why are there so many higher education and folks that live and breathe in that space? Not necessarily in the broadcast schools, but folks that are looking at lecture capture, looking at voice lift, looking at communicating and transmitting a classroom over a network. Where are they coming to NAB?
Mainly because remote learning is not going away.
Okay.
If anything, it's just going to become a ingrained part of higher education going from on. COVID, that pandemic, really pushed it forward. So we need this technology. We need to be able to broadcast not just to a wide audience, but also securely, making sure that the end-to-end encryption is done, that the privacy screens are done, especially when you get into school of medicine, because you got HIPAA laws and all that stuff you have to be mindful of.
You said that remote learning is not going away. Is it exclusive remote learning? Is it I don't like using the word hybrid, but I'm going to? Is it hybrid? Is it some like pick and choose? What exactly do you see for coming down the pipeline? Maybe not next semester, but maybe when you start looking into the 23 and 24 school year.
I think a little of everything. Thinking about this is for an event like this. I was currently working on my master's. Job change, put a hold on that, but if I came to an event like this, I miss class.
Yeah.
Now I don't need to. Or if I say I was a presenter or a faculty member and I had to go to a conference, now I'm throwing stuff on busy work for the students. Now I don't need to. We can reach anywhere, anybody, anywhere now. And it actually allows students who may not be physically able to get to campus or even mentally able to handle the crowds to take part of their education.
Okay, so that's a very important point. One of the things that I've learned over the last couple of years when it comes to DEI initiatives, right, and that is the neurodiversity aspect of it. Talk about that for a second and why that's so important as those of us who didn't know anything about it 3 years ago are starting to get educated and trying to serve that segment of our community.
So everyone has their own way they learn, and they have to feel comfortable. To be a part in your education, you have to feel comfortable in your environment. I was a person who actually had a learning disability that was registered. I never took advantage of any of the courses or the tools that they gave you to help because I didn't need those.
Yeah.
There are people who do, who will not speak up. This, being able to provide asynchronous and synchronous learning, allows people to take part, active parts in their education without feeling a target on their back or being a spotlight put on them.
As I wrap up here with you, what is one or two things that you are surprised about with this show this year?
Really how many products there are that would achieve what we're looking to do in higher education. Plus also a lot of these big tech companies like Microsoft, Dell's here, you got AWS with Amazon.
Amazon's here. Yep.
Yeah, so there's a lot of big tech companies here.
Absolutely. All right. James King, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you?
Thank you. As always, online, you can get me at AV_James King.
All right. You also check out your 1 year old podcast now.
Yeah.
Ask the Programmer. How do you do that?
Ask the Programmer is on YouTube and any podcast platform you like.
All right, very good. James King. We'll be right back with our next guest. All right, next up, this person does not need any introduction, and I don't think I have the words in the English language to do him justice. I will just start with Dr. Josiah Way.
Tim.
Hi, buddy.
How you doing?
I am well, man.
We're going to do the pretend we just ran into each other.
Absolutely. Just, oh, you're here type
Yeah,
thing.
nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
What brings you by?
Oh, technically an airplane.
Yeah.
You know.
Me too.
You too?
And I didn't even need to.
Well, that's true, because you could have just jumped in the car and, driven over from Southern California. I want to take we'll get to NAB in a second here, and we just talked to James, and he gave us some insight on higher education. Talk for a second about this show and other shows, and you and I are both going to ISC. How are you feeling as we're kind of getting back together, finally, after 2 years? What is your sense? What is your feeling? Is this a blip? Is this a temporary respite? Or is this, we're actually getting back together and we're getting back to a sense of normalcy and it's not going to get stalled again?
Yeah. I wish we could say it wasn't going to get stolen again, but you feel it. I mean, we're back.
Yeah.
There's no question we're back. We got, all the halls are full. People are buzzing around. I'm sure the numbers aren't what they would normally be, but look at the size of the booth. Look at how much, manufacturers are going, we're going to go all in here, and you can feel it. You can feel that people are back. People aren't even, pretending that there is COVID, they're just not. And I think that that's just part of our human nature where we're saying we want this sense of who we are and what we do as an industry back. And people are being reckless. I mean, people are being careful and everything. But you can just tell, coming here and feeling that people are wanting to be here, they're wanting to do business, the reps working the booths are wanting to show their product. I think that's been the thing that's missing, you know, and I was talking to some of the other higher ed people earlier, and we were saying, like, you can't do justice on a white paper to talk about a product launch, right? But just to get in and feel, I'm going over to one booth and I'm just playing with the little lever, right? And it just felt good, right?
There's one thing though, and I think you and I have had this conversation the last 2 years. I know I've had it in several different places. There are industries that you can describe a new product, service, offering with words, right? The drug industry, the medical industry, you can describe what a new drug does. Oh, it cures this. Here are the side effects. Da-da-da-da-da. You cannot experience an 8K display over Zoom, over Teams, over whichever platform you want, because it is inherently compressing the signal, sending it through the internet, and you're experiencing it through whatever resolution your display is. So talk for a second about the importance of this show, ISE, Infocom, CDA later this year, coming back in a fuller force, and what that means not only to the industry but also to the higher ed users who are out there trying to make sure that they have the latest, greatest for either this summer or for the fall.
Yeah, you said it, and I think that's a good example of when you're looking at a display. We're walking through here. First off, DirectView LED at NAB, hello? Yeah. How about that for a change, right? And you're walking through there, and you can just tell, okay, that's the quality. This is what I want. We are experiential, right? I mean, like, industry changed its name, to add that in there. But I think that that's the part that is missing, right? It is when you can plan something, or you're working on your I'll just using higher ed, your classroom upgrades, you can look at feature set. And those are important things, and those are certain things that you can see by just clicking the little spec part of the website that opens up the window, right? But that doesn't mean that you can see the effect or impact it will have once it's put in, and that's really what's been missing, and I think that's where I'm starting to see a lot of higher ed people around here who are actually from, mostly everyone's kind of localish, but smaller schools. They're getting here. Not everyone's has the luxury of, say, USC and some of the other schools where I could get out to a manufacturer and even if they're closed, I can get there and I can try to do these things. Most people couldn't do that. So it's extremely important, I know, for our vertical to be able to come back, to be able to say what it is, and now that we've learned what the future might look like, I don't know if we fully know, but we can at least say, okay, I want to touch, taste, feel, whatever, exactly what's going in, so that I know and have that confidence. And there's just something about that that you just, and already I've never been one of those, like, sorry everyone, and sorry Avixa and all, but I'm never one of those, like, outside the rim type. I usually go to the kind of the big boys, right? No, I'm walking everywhere around here. I'm like, this is cool. What's this little gadget, right? Yeah. And I think that maybe my way of looking at a trade show is going to be different moving forward, because it's kind of like, you took my toys away and I want them back, and I'm not going to let you do it again.
Well, and I will admit that as I mentioned this several times over the last couple of weeks. I'm in town for NAB. We are recording this on a Sunday, which is new for me, right? A trade show on a Sunday. Which may be why some of those smaller schools are able to do that, right? Come in. But there's another trade show going on this week called CinemaCon. And a lot of traditional AV folks are there as well. Traditional folks are here, right? Epiphan, we're in their booth, and thankful to them for this facility. Our friends at Shure are over and just down around the corner, right? You've got several folks that will be here, as well as Infocom, as well as ISE. Did you expect that? Did you expect that crossover?
Not at all. Not at all. And this is one of the things that's kind of taken, that I've noticed. Before coming into higher ed 6 years ago, I was in the live entertainment side. NAB was my show to go to, right? Never really went to commercial integration side. I come back to, in higher ed, I haven't been to an NAB since I left, and now I'm here. And I'm sitting there going, look at what's happened. We used to departmentalize broadcast. We departmentalized commercial integration. We departmentalized IT. But look what we have now. The entire hall is full of Cisco, Microsoft, IT companies, right? Network companies. Now we have all the other traditional AVs here mixed in, like we already mentioned. LED wall. That doesn't belong at NAB, but yet it does, because now we're doing sound stages that are direct view LED, right? We want to talk, and we love the buzzword of convergence, right? Well, this is converged like I didn't expect at all. I really did not. I honestly expected to walk in and go, oh yeah, I saw the list of these few people I know and all that, but I didn't expect to see a complete merging of all these verticals that we love to separate. And I think this show this year proves that we can't do that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe Way, thank you so much, sir. How do people connect with you?
You don't connect with me on the Twitters, but instead go to AVNation.tv for a whole host of shows.
Oh my goodness, that's my line.
I'm going to steal it. You can find me at Josiah Way on all the Twitter, socials, all that stuff, and also petma.org.
.org. All right, very good. Thank you, sir. Up next, we have our last guest. We'll be right back with her. All right, last guest here is the reason that we're blessed by sitting in the Epiphan booth. Mr. Nick Belani from Epiphan. How are you, sir?
Doing well, yourself?
Good, good. Thanks so much for the wonderful space, the equipment here, and
pretty
the
cool, right?
Very cool, very cool.
I mean, as a pro, you pop into a space. What are we in? Like 8 square feet here?
You're asking me to do math.
We got 10 megabit up. We're giving 4K out to the world.
Yeah.
This is flashy stuff.
We'll talk about that for a second. But what is the message this year for you guys, Epiphan specifically, talking to the folks at the NAB?
Yeah, well, our message has been pretty clear. It's broadcast without barriers.
Okay.
So we want to help people share their story with the world. And of course, a broadcast event like NAB is a place that we've existed for a long time. But part of what we're seeing is that organizations, because of the pandemic, desire a higher quality video product, but don't necessarily have the ability to absorb the expense associated with a $100,000 switching board. Right?
Yeah.
So then how do we start to marry those worlds in service to these new types of video communications people desire? And so that's really what we're showcasing here is hybrid workflows for the future. Great edge devices that bring video in, cloud computing that helps you leverage that video in a powerful way, and create experiences for your brand and for your individuals.
Talk for a second about that kind of different markets, right? Because you just described several different markets. Joe Way said this, Nancy Blanchard, I think from Williams AV, referenced this, the fact that you've got several different markets, both here at NAB, but also kind of a larger context. Joe used the term convergence, and he wasn't talking about AV-IT convergence. He was talking about broadcast and commercial AV and higher education, all these different markets that are all using the parts and pieces, the software, the cloud, and all these different pieces to get to the same end result, they get to the same goal. They're using these systems differently, but they're still using the same system, right? So how do you see that convergence coming together when it comes to you guys?
Yeah, it's a word we've talked about for a long time, you and I, and that's scale.
Yeah.
Right? When we start to create scale, that's really convergence. I have to get things to repeat and make it simple for everybody, whether it's the technician installing or the person using the technology. I gotta make it easy for everybody. And I think it's something that the imagination of the industry is just now catching up, right? Like, we went into survival mode. We all had to use video just to communicate, just to even connect. And then all of a sudden we're going, wait a second, I've got senior executives projecting a story to the world that doesn't even have basic branding on it, let alone a good microphone, camera, or lighting.
Yeah.
And it's all right there. It's all approachable. I just don't think anybody's had the time to think about it yet. And so now, as we kind of collectively breathe, get back together again, isn't this nice?
Yeah.
We're going to start to really think about how do we make video more impactful. And that's a space that I think is very interesting. If you think about Joe Way in higher education, he's thinking about how do I make video more impactful for my professors so that their lecture has impact, but also for the students. What he's doing with pop-up studios there is fascinating. Student goes in and records a quick 10-minute presentation for the professor. Well, I shared that with a large enterprise customer, and I said, well, what if your account executives could pop into a 4-person conference room, shoot a quick 10-minute pitch, and you knew they looked good, sound good, and feel good.
Yeah.
That's what happens when we put ourselves in a nice studio like this. And now all of a sudden you're changing the entire way that you use video to engage with customers, and that video serves your employees and your ecosystem. And that's just that's a fascinating shift. It explains to me why everybody would approach it with different tools and different little ways of doing it, because we're all trying to test and figure it out.
So talk for a second, because what you just described there is not unlike the digital convergence, the digital transition, right?
Yeah.
Between 5-wire, right, RGB, into more of a digital ecosystem. How do you take a traditional AV integrator, a traditional AV engineer, who, God love them, they're very smart, much smarter than I am, but they do sometimes get stuck in their ways. How do you get them there? How do you explain what you just described, a pop-up studio where, somebody can come in and leverage an existing system, but to use it for a different means?
Yeah, boy, that's a tricky one, right? I mean, I think first off, I'll say this: we need to meet the industry where it is. So that one of the tools we announced here is Epifan Connect,
Okay.
and it is the first proof point of the video conferencing world meeting the broadcast world, because we were able to take a Microsoft Teams signal out and bring it into any broadcast-enabled SRT workflow. So right there, you can start to extract Microsoft Teams people, put them into your live events. Those kinds of simple tools, and I think that's one of the things that's really important, is we have to acknowledge that we haven't armed those AV integrators and those engineers with the easiest tools to use. And frankly, it's a disservice. We give them these complicated tools and then we say, well, they can't figure out how to use them. Why don't we go figure out how to do it? And that's a proof point that I'd encourage anybody to come see, and that you can see it with our existing hardware, by the way. We're known as being really intuitive to use and super reliable, and we got to build off that base as a company. I think that's a good spot for us.
All right, very good. Nick Milani from Epifan. How do people connect with you or Epifan?
Epifan.com always. Nick Milani on Twitter, and would love to connect with anybody and happy to discuss more.
You should. He's a pretty cool guy to connect with. For Tim Albright, don't follow me on the Twitters. I'll just complain about the Bears or root on my Blues. But go by the website, if you would please, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find more videos like this, and Nick and I will be hanging out in Infocom, and we'll be heading to ISE in about 2 weeks. So all that and more at AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv.